As I've mentioned, several times, when you cut a hole 3/8 of an inch, it's 3/8 of an inch on this one side, but it's smaller on the bottom because the hole is tapered. Let's go over to the vise. Okay, so the holes are tapered because of the way the plasma torch works. And normally what I do, and I should have done this on this, I didn't size the holes at like, I normally do them at 0.42. For 3/8 inch bolt, I'll size them to 0.42 so that there's plenty of And the issue you have here is you can't use a regular drill bit. You'll ruin it. This is a carbide burr. You need the carbide burr because the metal is hardened, and even that's not big enough for a 3/8 inch bolt. Let's see, I don't know what the diameter of this is, but it's less than 3/8. A little bit better. We'll go from the other side. Yeah, so that's a mistake I made in designing this part. So there's two things at work here on a plasma table, and the reason I can't use a regular drill bit. because the material's hardened. So the surface of the material, a couple thousandths, 5 thousandths deep, is hardened through nitriding, which is due to the nitrogen in the air used by the plasma torch. And then I feel like there's some quenching, tempering, due to the water splashing on the hot metal. So well, I tell you, it's difficult to be careful drill doesn't break your wrist. Okay. Now I do have to do one more thing, and this was purposeful since you can't cut a correct size hole, and I was thinking that. I cut this at a 1/2 inch. Now that'll be a 1/2 inch on top, but it'll be smaller on the bottom. I need a 1-inch hole for a shaft to go through, and I'll show you what that's going to be for. But I can't do an accurate hole on the plasma table, so I just did this for locating purposes. So I'm going to locate on this, and then we're going to use a carbide annular cutter and cut a 1-inch, an accurate 1-inch hole here and on this second piece. Alright, so this is an annular cutter. Normally used it in my mag drill, but this is an adapter, R8 taper for the mill. It'll take these shanks, the depth of cut on these is limited compared to a regular drill bit. But for most applications, they're perfectly adequate. All right, I believe I'm basically centered on that hole. So this cutter is carbide. So I do have the plug still stuck in the cutter. Let's see if we can knock that out. So that's the plug. These chips are not only are they hot, they're razor sharp. The other factor here I'm dealing with is these two parts are cut from AR plate. It's the only scrap I had of suitable size to make these two parts. I had a piece of AR that I could cut. So I don't need AR plate. I could have used mild steel, but I had this left over from another project. So I decided to use it. It's certainly not what you would normally pick. You want to be gentle on this so you don't inadvertently knock off carbide teeth that you're brazed on. Now in the mag drill you'd use a little spring-loaded center, but it's seldom, it wouldn't be strong enough to push this out generally. This is coming, it's just taking a, there we go. It's just 3/8 inch thick. It's definitely stuck in there. Okay, got my I'm looking at the carbide teeth here. I see a couple of chips. This tooth here has got a chip on it. This tooth here has a little chip. So that's the reason it was making so much heat cutting. All right. All right, I got the holes I need. There we go. All right, so there's almost no slag on these. It's got a pretty new nozzle. That's the key. You can see there's just little pieces of, they call it dross or slag. All right, I took a chance. I cut these holes on the plasma table, 1.1 inches. We'll see how they fit the 1 inch diameter. I'm working on some foot steps, foot pads. I've decided to build them separate from the fenders. And I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm trying different stuff. I'm going to weld this together, weld this to this, and potentially weld this to this. And we'll see how that goes. I just need something to step on to get up on the tractor, support my feet, and I need to have the ability to operate a pedal, which we'll install later. So we'll weld these together and we'll just test them out, see how the ergonomics are. You know, the height of the pedal, it needs to be far enough away to clear the cylinder, which is basically at its maximum distance right now, because the tractor's turned to the left. So this is sticking out about, I think it's 4.5 inches or something. So it's basically just some test fits. We'll see what works best. All right, so here's a little different use of the plasma table. I'm going to cut some holes. So I've got the stirrups, or whatever I want to call them, the footrests sitting here. So the location of the hole, which is right under the nozzle here, is over an empty space in the support metal underneath it. So I'm going to cut a hole there. I'm going to come over and cut a hole in this one, and we're going to come over closer, cut two more holes. So we're going to cut 2 holes in each foot pad. Hopefully this will work. Only take a second on each one. All right, that worked fine. I'm going to come over, go to the work 0 first. So go back to where we started from. Then I'm going to move over 3 inches. Whoops, too far. All right, that's 3 inches. So going to 0 the axes there. Cut another hole. All right, go back to go to work 0. I'm going to move this way. Let's see if I have room to move 2 inches. Let's try. That's 1.5 inches. All right, that's 2 inches. I think there's clearance to cut that hole there. So we'll 0 the axes and cut another hole. All right, go to work 0 again. Okay, and this time we'll go the other direction, 3 inches. All right, 0 the axes again, and cut another hole. All right, that's so much easier and faster than trying to drill through. Because this is AR plate, which is what I mentioned, I had this piece of scrap left over, so I cut these pieces out of AR 400, which, you know, is kind of a challenge to drill through. So plasma torch doesn't care, so that gives me. All right, here's another unconventional thing. Going to, well, I don't know if it's unconventional. We haven't done it, haven't done this in a while. Going to cut covers for the foot pads out of this aluminum diamond plate. Right, so we'll mark these and drill these to attach them to the foot pads. Right, so that's basically a perfect fit. All right, that at least designates it as a foot pad. I think this is plenty strong. Welded there. The 1.25" tubing gives enough rigidity for that foot pedal, for the foot step. And it's removable, just 2 bolts here, and the whole foot pedal comes off. And I'm not sure that's the final design. It's at least for the time being. And, you know, we can see, let's see how it is as far as getting on the tractor. So that's fine. You know, the foot position is not ideal. I would rather the foot position was forward, but I've got these front wheels which are so close to me. If you remember early on in the design, this seat was back about, almost a foot. I shortened the front half of the chassis about a foot and lengthened the rear section, about a foot in order to center the pivot point between the 2 axles. Now, ultimately, I wound up moving the rear wheel back, and as I've stated early on and multiple times, objective for this build really is trying to keep it as compact as possible. I'm constrained. Obviously, the design is constrained by the front axle being behind the engine. Now, that isn't the only way you can do this. And, you could, that's the only way to do it with the inline drive line. That is the crankshaft of the engine to be at that level. You need the transmission to be behind the engine to connect to the crankshaft. Theoretically, you could put the front axle in front of the engine and drive it from the front of the engine. That's possible. It would probably look odd. So, that's not how you normally see these done in almost all of the articulated tractors. The engine overhangs the front wheels by some amount. So, there are design considerations and there's ergonomic considerations. So sometimes they conflict. All right, so I've got what I've got. These foot pedals will be fine. They certainly are plenty strong. They support your weight, keep your feet away from the fenders and the axles. I still have to deal with the 2 safety features, brakes and neutral return. And the neutral return is a pedal that puts both transmissions in neutral. You step on it. Now, it could be a pedal, it could be some other function, it could be just taking your foot off of a pedal, for example. So there are, I'm sure a bunch of ways to do that. We'll sort something out at some point and make some progress on that. But right now, I'm pretty good with the foot pads where they are. They're plenty strong. Whoops. I'm pretty good. Where are my boys? Ah, there's Brutus. Where's Butchie? Kind of dark out here right now. Where'd Butchie go? Huh? Uh-oh, there he comes. Come on in, Butchie. You guys haven't had much airtime in my videos lately. So There's Brutus grooming Butchie. And then he tries to climb on top of him. Come on, Brew. Come on. Come on, inside. Come on. So, all right. So of course, behaviors here. Butchie is the alpha, and Brutus is, constantly trying to appease him. Butchie can be a little bit of a bully at times. He's very food focused. So they do get in spats occasionally, but Brutus seems to still hold his own. So, all right. Suit yourself. There he goes. As soon as you close the door, he's in. All right. Go on, go get your own. Okay, you want some hugs and snugs, huh? All right. What a good boy. What a good boy. Have a pleasant evening out. It is mid-October. We just had a nor'easter come up the coast, a lot of rain. Finally, after 4 days of wet weather, no sun, it's starting to clear out. All right, folks, that's it for this episode. I'm pretty happy with the way the footsteps turned out. So I'll take them off, paint them, put the diamond plate pads on them that will, designate them as a footstep. So that'll work okay. I'm going to shift my focus next week to brakes and or neutral return pedal or actuator of some sort. So I haven't totally figured out what I want to do yet, but that's not unusual for me. So if you're interested in how that's going to turn out, tune in next week for continuation of the saga on the Cub Cadet articulated 4x4 dump truck. So thank you for watching. We'll see you then.